Hi everyone. This is the class for students, those who are writing their remaining papers, right? And I have taken the paper. This is commercial application. I'm going to talk about this paper, and this is a recap which I'm going to give you. This is the question pattern which you already know. Your question paper will be divided in section A and section B. Section A will be of 40 marks and section B will be of 60 marks. Section A is compulsory, and where you have to answer 4 questions, question 1, 2, 3, 4, and each question will have 5 sub numbers or subsections. Then go to section B. In the section B, you have to attempt any 4 questions out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions given. 9 and 10 is your case study, right? So either you can answer 2 case study from here and 2 from this side, or you can answer any 4 straightforward questions like 5, 6, 7, and 8. Each of these questions will have 3 sub numbers. 1 question will carry 5 marks. So 3 questions altogether will make 15 marks here. So 4 questions into 50 will be 60 marks. Then things to note here is, guys, 15 minutes reading time. Make the best use of this 15 minutes reading time. Use this 15 minutes reading time only in section B in finding out which questions you will attempt. Do not waste your time in section A because this is compulsory. You have to answer all the questions there. This part, you have to decide either you do number 5, 6, or 7, 8, or 9 and 10. This is important. And if you do a right choosing here, you will definitely do well, right? So next, I'm going to give you a sample question on case study. Your case study looks like this. You have a paragraph given. Below this, you will have the questions given. A, B, C, 3 questions will be given to you. And the questions will be asked from the statement or paragraph given. Like here, name branding strategy referred to in the case study and explain them. So here you have umbrella branding, individual branding, right? And this question will have a relation with the chapters that are already being taught to you. In the previous chapters, you have definitely learned about all these things, right? So you should not be confused when you get a new question here, because this will definitely have a relation with the chapters that you have already studied. Now I'm going on to the paper, how your paper, like what your paper looks like. Your section 4, say you have question 1. This question 1 is subdivided into 5 sections. Question 2 will also be divided into 5 subsections or 5 sub-numbers, not sections, sub-numbers, right? And this is compulsory. You have to answer all these questions here. Number 1, state one difference between each of the following. This is a question based on give differences. So this question should always be answered in a tabular form, okay? In a tabular form like this. Make 3 columns. This is a column here, you write down basis. And here you got to write down what is the differences between. It is capital market, so write down capital market here. This is money market, so write down money market. Then here you write down basis. On what basis you are going to differentiate? It is a market which provides long-term finance, and this is the market which provides short-term finance, right? And here is mentioned state one difference, so you will write down only one difference. And if nothing is mentioned here, then you are advised to give 2 answers or 2 points, right? Number 1 here and number 2 here. If it is not mentioned how many points to give, then it's always advisable to give 2 points. So next part you can write down the examples here, right? Similarly, now after you have finished this one, then for number 2, for next number B, draw again the format again in the same way, like this. Then again you write on the basis here. write on the heading direct cost and indirect cost, give the points. If it is 1.1, if nothing is mentioned, write 2 points like this. Okay? This is how you go to answer. Then question number 2, mention any 2 advantages of wind energy. Mention any 2 advantages of wind energy. So here, when you write the question number, your question number should be in the same format as given in the question paper. If you are going to answer question number 2, see, go to write like this. Question 2, you are answering A, so write down to A. State any 2, mention any 2 advantages of wind energy. So your answer should be like this. The 2 advantages of wind energy are, number 1, it is inexpensive and abundantly available. Number 2, it is a non-renewable source of energy, like this. Okay? Similarly, similarly you will have question number 3, 4. Then you will have this is section B. This is the long answer type. Here you have to attempt any 4 questions, right? Question 5 is subdivided into A, B, and C. Now, guys, here I will be explaining you how to write the question, how to write the answer to the question number 4, or so on. So this way you have the case study. Question number 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 and 10 will be your case study. Now I'm going on to the next portion, how to write the answers. You have taken the example of question number 3. What is food adulteration? Give 1 example. So this is, this is how the answers have been written here or shown here. What is food adulteration? Give an example. See guys, when you're writing the answers, use the keywords, right? Make your answer short and to the points. This is 2 marks questions. Do not write lengthy. Use the keywords. Look at the keywords used here. Intentionally, low quality, undesirable, inedible. These are the keywords, guys. This is what you go to use. Example given here. Dried papaya seeds mixed in black paper. That's an example, right? Then we go to question number 2. State the importance of persuasion as an element of public relation. So you write the question answer number B. When you write the answer B, leave 1 line and then write the answer B. Again, when you are writing the answer, use the keywords. Number C, explain 2 advantages of opening a bank account. You are asked to mention 2 advantages. So here, the advantages of bank accounts are safety of money, payment facility. So pay attention here, guys. Here I've used lines, okay? Subheadings are underlined. So you always underline the subheadings and give the explanation. Question number D, what is meant by parity pricing? Here again, the answer to the question number D, the keywords are used. Adjust its own price policy to the general pricing structure, charging according to what competitors charging, right? These are the keywords. So pay attention to the keywords that you use in your answer. Number E, then you have already answered all the 5 sub-numbers. So after you have finished answering the number, guys, answering the question, draw a long line to indicate that that particular number has come to an end. Okay? This is the answer to the question number 3. So now I go ahead to write the question number 4. So this is question number 4. Number A. Here the cross is there. What does it mean? I want you not to start your fresh question from below the page. Fresh questions should always be started from the fresh page like this way. This is the fresh page. So you start a fresh question from the fresh page here. Now here I am showing you how to write the answer for the question. Give a reason either for or against each of the following statements. Here 5 statements are given to you. Here you may write the answer for, that means true, or against, that means false. Like here, human resource management is a challenging function. Is it true or false? Okay? If it is true, write down the word for. You can underline it and give the explanation. And this explanation should be the relevant one. Do not beat about the bush. Give the right answer, the relevant answer, okay? Then number B, every transaction has 2 effects. Now supposing if I do not know this answer, I do not know the answer to this question, then I can skip to number C, ethic has no role in public relation. So I might take a decision to leave the space and write down this number C here, or I just write number C or give the answer to the question number C. Now number C is the question for against. So I write the word against and give the explanation. So similarly you have number D, then E. So I write the answer for number D. I write the answer for number E. I have not written the answer for number B. So what I do is, if I wish, I can leave the space right after E, or I can leave the space in between for the answer, okay? And after you have finished this, I can draw a line so that this entire question number 4 is finished there. So this is important for you. Here, when you write the answers, make sure that your answer paper is presentable. And to make your answer paper presentable, you have to give due importance to few points like writing, neat and clean handwriting, okay, legible handwriting, right words to be used, space between the words, okay. Now when you are supposing here, when you are crossing or when you are deleting the particular word, this is how you should be cancelling or deleting the word. Supposing you write the words, supposing spelling is wrong, do not do like this. How you have to cancel is just draw one line. This will give a neat look to your answer script, okay? Now, a few reminders or suggestions that you have to follow at home or in the examination center, okay? So these are the few suggestions I have which you need to follow at home. Number 1 is understand the basic concepts and terms through revision. That means give due importance to the keywords. When you are revising for your exam, look for the keywords, right words, the basic concepts, okay? Avoid selective study. That means have an intensive study. Study everything. See the past year's paper. That will give you the idea how the paper is going to be. Some suggestions for you to follow at the center, right? Reach the exam center at least half an hour early. That means be on time. Do not indulge in discussion with your friends. Now, when you reach the exam center, you see your friends involved in discussion. That is not a good idea. Why? Because if you're involved in the discussion there may be some point or there may be some chapter or the topic which you may not have studied properly. So this will give you a feeling that, yes, I do not know. I have to learn much. So that gives you a panicky thing, right? So that is not good for the just before the exam center. That is why just before the exam. So in order to avoid that, it's better not to indulge in any kind of discussion. In the examination hall, what are you supposed to do? Use the reading time judiciously. That is what I explained in the beginning. Read the question carefully and understand the requirements and then write to answer. Don't hurry to answer. You read the question and understand what is the question wanting from you, okay? Read case studies well and relate them with the topic or chapter that you have already learnt. Use subheadings for long answers and explain them appropriately. Subheadings. What are the subheadings? I'll explain that. Subheadings like, supposing if you are asked to explain what are the functions of commercial banks, okay? Then accepting deposit. Accepting deposit. This is your subheading. So write the subheading, underline it. Then lending. Lending money or lending finance. This is another subheading, underline it. So using subheadings for long answers and explain them. Underline and then you explain them. Write differences in tabular form. Do not leave any question unanswered. Try to attempt all the required number of questions. See guys, sometimes you might come across some unseen questions. You should not be confused, right? At least if you be calm and relaxed, you will be able to like get back something that you have heard in the classroom or read somewhere else. So you will be able to write something. So you got to write something. Do not leave such questions unanswered. Draw a line after having answered all the questions from that number. Do not start afresh questions from the bottom few lines of a page, which I have already explained to you before. Do not cross the right-hand margin while writing answers. This is kept for examiners. You will see a margin on the right-hand side, so do not write anything here. Write the question numbers as given in the question paper. Use the same ink color throughout. Do not change the color, right? Use the same ink color. If you have started to write the exams in a black ink, use black ink throughout. Pay attention to the presentation. Handwriting should be legible. Do not scribble. So these are some of the suggestions that I have put forward before you. Keep in your mind all these points and wish you all the best. Do your exams well. Thank you.
Hello everyone. This episode is meant for the ICSE 2020 batch. That is those students who are going to sit for the remaining papers of the ICSE 2020. And one of the paper that is left out is the computer application. So we'll just have a recap of what are the topics that we come across and also a little bit of the paper structure. Okay? Because most of you know what is going to come. You have already covered the whole syllabus and you know the format. Even then, let's just see a little bit. We know that a computer application will be of 100 marks. This exam that you are sitting for. You will have two sections. Section A, 40 marks. Section B, 60 marks. Remember, section A is compulsory. Section B is choosing, right? For this compulsory section, you got 3 questions. Generally, you will have 3 questions. Okay, question 1, question 2, and question 3. For the last few years, it has been like this. So question 1, you get 5 subparts. Question 2, 5 subparts. Question 3, 10 subparts. But this is not a fixed order. Okay, it might change. You may have 4 questions with 5 subparts each. So when you have subparts, the subparts will be of 2 marks. Fine. Now, I want to remind you, section A, give your answer to the point. Don't write anything extra because time is a factor. Your whole paper is of 2 hours. And section B, you will be writing programs, so you need more time for section B. So section A, try to finish it up within 30 minutes. In fact, if you're good in computers, you'll take less time for this. Okay? And once more, I am reminding you, give your answer to the point. And when you are answering, make sure that you write the keywords, specific keywords. Okay? Section B, as you know, there will be 6 questions out of which you need to answer 4. Each question will be of 15 marks. So obviously here the questions are program related. You have to write programs for them. And not only you write the program, you need to give a variable description also. At the end of each program, you need to give the variable description. So for each question, you got 15 marks. And since you are writing programs, you need to spend more time here. So that's why I'm saying for section B, keep at least 1.5 hours, okay, for 4 questions. Section A, finish it up within 30 minutes. Now when we go to section A, what are things that you need to keep in mind? Okay, the properties of Java. It's very specific, you may get questions on this. You got platform independent, it is both compiled and interpreted, it implements Vora, it implements distributed, it can be distributed, it implements multi-threading programming, it is simple, it is robust, it is secure. Make sure that when you are asked for the properties of Java, you write the properties of Java. You don't confuse with the properties of OOPS, object-oriented programming. Okay? So 2 marks, most probably you have to write 3 or 4 of these properties. Okay? Until unless you are asked to describe each one, don't describe, just give the name. Just mention it. That's all for 2 marks. Okay? Next, we have got the properties of OOP. You may get questions on properties of OOP. And again, I'm saying why I've written this together is because we generally make mistake or we confuse with the properties of Java and properties of OOP. We interchange. So that should be avoided. When we are talking about the property of OOP, some of the very basic properties: encapsulation, data abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Encapsulation, remember, the character of an object-oriented programming in which the data and the behavior and the properties are encapsulated within an object. Okay? Data abstraction, the background detail is not required. When an information is sent from one function to another function, one method to another method, one object to another method, another object, then what is the background detail of that information? How that information has been secured or got? That is not required. So background detail is not required in data abstraction. Inheritance, properties of one class, one object can be inherited by another object. Okay, that is inheritance. Polymorphism, when you have the same function name. Remember, the first line of a function is called the function header or the prototype. So you use the same prototype except for the function signature. That's the, what do you say, let's say the, after the header, the part that deals with the, okay, next one is polymorphism. In case of polymorphism, what happens is you use the same function name, same properties of the function header in different functions. So you generally get, in section A you get questions related to this. In section B you will get a program related to polymorphism. Fine? So don't mix up the properties of object-oriented programming with that of the property of Java. Next we have got the difference. You get questions related to difference. Differences of what? Very common ones. Difference between single equals to and double equals to. Remember, single equals to is for storing, assigning values to a variable. Double equals to is a relational operator that checks whether the two operands, that is on the left hand side operand and the right hand side operands, are equal or not. Then difference between if, it can be a nested if also, it can be if else if also. So difference between if and switch case. While and do while loops. Is uppercase, to uppercase. Caret, substring. When we are talking about is uppercase, if you get a difference between is uppercase and to uppercase, see, when you have this is, that means the output is true or false. Okay, it is checking whether it is in uppercase or it is in lowercase or it is a digit. Whenever in the function name this is there, is, that means the output will be Boolean type, true or false. When you have a function in which you have got 2, that means it is to be converted. It is being converted, right? Generally it will be string type. Okay, so is and to. You may have a number of different types of functions. So whenever in the function name you got is, it means the output will be true or false. So keep this in mind. Okay. Then difference between caret and substring. Caret, you know, is a character library function. It can extract only one character, while substring can extract one or more characters. Also, the output of caret will be chart type, while output of substring is string type. Now keep in mind, when you get difference, in certain questions you know more than one difference. You may have 3-4 difference in your mind. Try to write at least 2. Okay. If you know more than 2, well and good. But remember, the more you write, the less time you get to finish your paper. If you write 2 difference, you get 2 marks. So keep that in mind. Next, you may get questions where you need to convert a Java expression, or let's say a mathematical expression will be given to you and you need to convert it into a Java expression. Okay. So be careful of the brackets. In mathematical expression, you can use the first bracket, you use the second bracket, the curly brackets, you use the square brackets. But when you're writing or when you're converting that into a computer expression or Java expression, you can use only the first bracket. The square bracket is used for array. The curly brackets are used for the class or object boundary definition. So avoid using curly brackets and square bracket. Use only the first bracket. Fine. You may use the maths library functions also. Suppose you get a square that you need to convert it into Java expression. You may write 2 ways. You can write a into a, or you may write math.pow a comma 2. Both are valid. So you can use any of them, right? You may get questions on the precedence of when you are solving an expression. You may be given a expression that you need to solve. Okay, mathematical expression that you need to solve. So when you are solving an expression, especially related to prefix and postfix operation, keep in mind the precedence of operator. Precedence of operator, like which operator will be solved first, which operator will be solved next, and so on. Okay, so that you need to keep in mind. Remember, in computers, we normally don't follow BODMAS rule because here the number of operators are more. So you have to follow the precedence of operators rule. Okay. Also in computers, you need to remember that division and multiplication has the same importance. If in an expression you come across a division and a multiplication, whichever comes first, whichever is on the left hand side will be solved first, and then whatever is on the right hand side. Not like in maths. In maths, we do division first, then the multiplication, isn't it? Similarly, in case of addition and subtraction, in computers, addition and subtraction, in Java, computer, and when we speak of addition and subtraction, in case of Java, both addition and subtraction has the same importance. That is, again, it's the same thing. Whichever comes on the left hand side will be solved first, and then the right hand side one. Okay, but in maths, it is different. Okay, so we don't exactly follow the BODMAS rule. Then you have to have a clear idea of the Java tokens, the different types of Java tokens. Like you got keywords, you got identifiers, you got literals, you got operators, separators, comments. So you have to have some ideas about each of this. And I'm sure most of you have certain ideas about each of these tokens. Then you have to have type conversion. Values of one data type being converted to another data type. Okay, this you generally get in short answer type, where, say, for example, you're given int x equals to, within single quotes, capital A. Int x equals to, within single quotes, capital A. What happens here is not A that will be stored, but the ASCII value of A will be stored in X. So 65 will get stored in X. So these things you need to keep in mind. Okay, and remember ASCII value, capital A is 65, capital B is 66, C is 67, and so on to capital Z, that is 90. Similarly, small a is 97, small b is 98, small c is 99, and so on to small z, that is 122. So keep in mind the ASCII values. Also, sometimes you are asked what type conversion is taking place, whether it is implicit or explicit. Remember, implicit is when a smaller data type is being stored in a larger data type. Like suppose you have declared a variable as byte A equals to 6. And then byte A is being stored in, say, int type, int B equals to A. So you're storing a byte into int. So smaller data type to a larger data type. Here the conversion will take place automatically, implicit, automatic. Explicit is when you're trying to store a larger data type into a smaller data type. Here you have to force by using type conversion, where you write the data type within bracket. The data type into which you're converting, you write it within a bracket. Okay, so keep in mind this type conversion. The different access specifier, public, private, protected, default. Okay, so those are there. Then prefixed and postfix operation, you may get a small expression that you need to solve. So when you are solving this, keep in mind whether it is prefix operation taking place or postfix operation taking place. And remember, when you are solving it, don't forget to show the working. Don't just write the answer. You are expected to show the working, how you are getting the answer. That has to be shown. For that, you will get the marks, not for just the answer. Okay? So when you are solving any expression, please show the working. Concept of data type. Of course, this you all know. When you're doing programming, you have to have this data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, char, and string. Of course, boolean will be in small letters. Except for string, everything is in small letters because they are keywords. Okay? So not only in section A, even in section B, be sure of the data type. The values that you will be using, be sure of the data type. You may get questions related to system.out.print, system.out.println. You know system.out.print, if you have consecutive system.out.print statements, then the printing or display will be in the same row, one after the other. If you use println, after printing the control goes to the next line. After printing the control will go to the next line. Be sure of this. And if you use the escape sequence character /n, then immediately it will give a line break and control will go to the next row or next line. Okay? And of course, dry run output. You might be given a small code, small function might be given to you, a small loop may be given to you, code of a loop. You have to dry run it, run the program. You have to think how the program will work in the computer and execute the steps one by one. You have to show the working again, okay? You have to show the working, how it is ticking, what is happening in each step. So you have to explain that. Generally, if dry run or output comes, you get 5 marks question. So obviously you need to show the working. We get questions related to library functions, so you should know all the library functions, character library function, string library function, string buffer library functions. Okay? Then string manipulators. Here we can see some of the string manipulators: caret, index of, substring, replace, equals, and so on and so forth. Okay? So be sure of the library functions. I think equal, ignore case, it should be, there's a spelling mistake, typo. Yeah, E is missing. Equal, ignore case. Fine. So when you're using them, make sure that you know what the function actually does. Okay? You will be requiring in section A, and you will be requiring them to be used in section B when you're doing programs. Output types. This is also important. What type of output you are getting, the data type of the output, that is important. Whether it will be int type, float type, boolean type, chart type, or string type. Okay? So be sure of the output that comes. And yeah, some other questions can come also. But all these questions are related to your programming concept. Section A, related to programming concept. Of course, you get questions only related to Java. So if you're good in programming, you know all this. And again, I'm saying you, don't spend more than 30 minutes in solving section A. And please read the questions and understand what has been asked. I know many of you, as soon as you see the question, you think, oh, this is very easy. You don't read the whole question and you think, oh, this is very easy, I know. And then you start answering. And once you start answering and you read the question properly, then you find that, okay, this has gone over my head. So you're given 15 minutes time. Please read the questions, understand what has been asked, clearly understand what has been asked, and then you start solving the paper. Now we move on to section B. Remember section B, 6 questions, out of which you have to do 4. Now, out of these 6 questions, generally you will have 2 questions related to object-oriented programming. One will be a complete object-oriented programming and one will be related to polymorphism. One program will be related to polymorphism and one will be normal object-oriented programming. And the other 4 will be simple programming concept. You may use object-oriented programming if you think you are good in object-oriented programming, then you may use object-oriented programming to solve all the programs. Otherwise, you may not go into more than one function in the other programs. You may just create the main function and solve your problem. You'll get full marks. But in those questions where you have to use object-oriented programming, remember in the question, if you look, I'm just giving an example here. When a question comes like this in object-oriented programming, the details will be given to you. Like the class name. If you look, whatever I've marked in bold, this will be given to you. Like design a class name showroom. So the name of the class has to be showroom. It will be given to you. Okay. Instance variable, data members, instance variables, global variables. Remember, instance variables are written outside any functions. Before you create any function, you create the variables. Even here, the variable name will be given to you. The data type of the variable will be given to you. And what you're going to store in the variable, that is also mentioned to you. Like if you look at the first line, data type is string, variable name is name. And what you're going to store here? To store the name of the customer. So obviously you're going to get the name of the customer as an input in some function, and then the value will be stored in a variable called name, which will be of string type. Similarly, if you look at the second one, the data type is long. Name is mob number. Obviously from the name you make it out that it is mobile number. To store the mobile number of the customer. So if you look at the question, the important informations are given to you. The name, the data type, what you're going to store in the variable, what functions you're going to do. Like if you look at the next one, member methods or the functions. Here also function names are given to you. Function names are given to you, and what happens inside the function is also given to you. Like showroom, first one, is a constructor, default constructor, just to initialize the variables. This instance variables that you have given, they have to be initialized. You declare the variables outside the constructor. Don't declare the variables inside the constructor or inside a function. Instance variable means they have to be declared outside. So once you declare them, inside the constructor, you give the initial value. Remember, the initial default values are generally 0 for numeric type. If it is int, byte, short or long, it is 0. If it is float or double, it is 0.0 and so on. Okay, so initialize the variables to the default values. Don't give random number. Give them the default value. And then according to the program, you do whatever calculation, whatever process you have to do, whatever steps you have to write within the function, you write them. Okay, make sure you use whatever information is given to you. And in the object-oriented programming, the information will be given to you. The only part that you need to do is the calculation part, okay, that you have to write down. When you have this type of programs, the marking scheme, like you will be marked on whether you have used the proper class name, whether you have declared the variables properly outside any function, whether you created the default constructor, then the different functions. This is the marking scheme for the example that I've used before. Okay, this one. For this sample program, this is the marking scheme. Okay, so void input. There should be 3 inputs inside the function. There will be 4 condition and 4 calculations. So calculation is given amount equals to cost minus discount. Then the next function void display, and the object creation, and finally the variable description, mnemonic code or the variable description. So if you write these things within the function, you get marks. Remember, computer is very easy subject. You can easily score high marks if you follow the guidelines. So when you're doing an object-oriented program, remember the question that comes will have all the details. You just need to follow them. Fine. We have done this marking scheme. Now, what mistakes you make? General mistakes that most of the students make. First one, major error considered, instead of declaring instance variable as global variables, declared or initialized in the constructor. That's what I was saying. When we talk about instance variable, they need to be declared outside any function or constructor. So you create the class, then you declare all the variables. Then you create the constructor. And within the constructor, you only give the initial values to those variables, right? As I said, you should have a clear concept of default construct. Default constructors are used to give the default values to the instance variable. That is initializing the variables within the default constructor by giving the default values. Then we have got the other mistake that you make is some candidate initialize with values instead of the default value. That's what I'm saying. When you are initializing the variables within the default constructor, give them the default values. Don't give random number, zeros. Okay, numeric values are zeros. Numeric data type will have 0 as default values. Very important, this is a very common mistake that we make. We change the name of the functions. The function names, as I've shown you, are given in the question. Sometimes we change them. So if you change this, you may lose marks. So let's not do that. I'm again telling you that all the information is given in the question. Just follow them. Also, you see here, instead of accepting data by using method scanner class, you accept as functions of the arguments. Now you shouldn't have only arguments in the function. You have to have a separate function to accept the values from the user using scanner class or using the buffer reader class. You may use scanner class or you may use the buffer reader class to ask the user to enter values. And those values you take in a function, most probably like input. The name will be given to you. Use that function only to accept values from the user. Don't accept the values as arguments for the functions. Same like same here, like this. The names of the variables are given in the question, so you need to use those names. Don't create your own name. Okay. Also, syntax of object creation. Remember, the syntax for object creation is class name, object name equals to new. The new keyword has to be used. New class open close bracket. Here the class with open close bracket is not the class, it is the constructor. Okay. So class name, object name equals to new, then the constructor name with the open close bracket, which may have parameters, and then semicolon, obviously. So these are some of the common mistakes that you make or generally students make when they are attempting the programs related to object oriented programming. Fine. And of course, if you are asked to write the main function, don't forget to create the main function. It is the main function in which generally you create the object and then you make the function call. And when you're making a function call, remember, you have to mention the object name. Suppose my object name is obj1. So function call will be obj1.input, obj1.display, obj1.calculation, whatever is there. Okay. So stick to the format. Otherwise, you'll lose marks. So let's not lose marks unnecessarily. Other than this object-oriented program, remember, one will be a object-oriented programming, normal object-oriented programming, and the one will be polymorphism. Other than this, the 4 other questions can deal with array. You may get questions related to array. You may get single dimension array. From this year, we are having double dimension array. Single dimension array, remember to go through sorting, 3 different types: bubble sorting, insertion sorting, or selection sorting. Remember, whichever method you are using, in case of sorting, you are swapping the values, you are interchanging the values based on the criteria being fulfilled. If you're interchanging the values, generally we take a separate variable, a temporary variable of the same data type, where you'll store a value for time being and then interchange the values with the other 2 cells. Okay? And also remember, in sorting, whichever method you use, you will be using nested loops. Okay? And there will be nested loops. Then you may come across linear search. It may not be specifically to do a linear search. They might be asking, you might be asked to look for a value. The word search may not be given. So you do linear search. Linear search, remember, starts from the first cell of the array and goes to the last cell, or till the condition is fulfilled. You may get binary search. Remember, in binary search, the values or the elements of the array should be in order, either in ascending or descending order. And then binary search, using a single loop, you do the binary search whereby you find the starting position, starting index number and the last index number, divide by 2 to get the mid cell number, and then you do check whether the condition matches with them or not. Also remember, in section A you may get questions asking the difference between linear search and binary search. Okay? Merging means when you have 2 different arrays and you need to create a third array, taking the values of the first array and the elements of the second array and joining them up. Okay? So you may get questions related to this if the question comes on array. If it is a double dimension array, you may get to calculate the sum of all the elements, or the sum of the rows, or sum of the columns, or sum of the diagonals, or you may be asked to transpose the array. Okay? Now also try to remember that when you are using double dimension array, generally we use nested loop, one for the row, one for the column. But again, certain logic can be developed without using double dimension, without using nested loop, especially like if you're finding the sum of diagonals. If you're finding the sum of the diagonals, you need not use a nested loop. With a single loop you can do it. Always remember, you may have more than one logical way of solving a problem. There can be more than one way in solving a problem. So whichever you feel comfortable, use that. You may get questions related to menu driven. Menu driven program, remember, generally is based on switch case. Of course you can solve using if, else if also, but when we speak of menu driven, we are asking you to solve using switch case. String manipulation, again the same thing. String manipulation, those functions that are there, you may be asked to extract characters or change the position of characters. You may be asked to find the number of blank space or number of words, or you may be asked to convert from small letters to capital letters. You may be asked to replace certain characters with some other character. All this can be done using the string library functions. Fine. Next, loops. You may get questions related to loop. Generally you get one question specifically related to loops. Of course, when you're using string manipulators or you're using array, you need to use loops. But specifically on loops, you may get questions related to pattern generation. Okay? You got so many different types of patterns. So you may get patterns, or you may get to generate a series. Remember, in a series, the values that you write in a series will always have something in common. How they are generated, that will be common. So you may have to generate pattern, or you may have to generate series, or you may be asked to extract digits from a number. How do you extract digits from a number? Especially if you have to extract the digits from the back or the end of the number. Simple, you modulo divide by 10. When you modulo divide anything by 10, you generally get the last digit. and then you divide by 10, the last digit is removed from the value. And then you restore back this new value in the same variable, and the loop continues. So each time the loop executes, you're extracting one character, one digit from the end of the remaining value. Okay? Keep this in mind. Of course, you may also get programs on if-else if, like discount calculation, bill calculation. It can be something, your, say, report card generation, remark generation, remark of a student's report card generation. This type of questions are all based on if-else if statements. Okay? And of course, ultimately you generally get one question related to polymorphism. Polymorphism, in question related to polymorphism also, the function name will be given to you. So use the same function name for whatever number of functions you need to use in your program. Fine? And that's it. All the best. All the best to your exam. And remember, you have had enough time. You had plenty of time to revise everything. Don't, now 1 month is left, don't do selective study. Please learn and go through everything. Computer is very easy. You can score high marks, and make sure that you attempt all the question. Don't leave any question blank. I'm not talking about section B, I'm talking about section A. Don't leave anything blank. Attempt everything and be very specific in your answer. Section B, whichever problem you think, if you're not comfortable with object-oriented programming, you can leave the object-oriented programming. Even then you got 4 questions to answer. Okay? So all the best. Thank you.
Hi. So today I will discuss about how you should answer a question paper in economic application. This is more importantly for your forthcoming remaining paper in economic application. So I'm going to use 2019 past paper and discuss how in the previous year the students answered the question and what was the flaws in that, so that when you appear for your 2020 economic application paper, theory paper, you would like to do it better. So I will discuss about this recap, ICSE 2020 economic applications, a recap. So here are your guidelines on the theory paper, which is 100 marks. And I've taken a typical case study of 2019 question paper and how these have been answered by the previous students and what you should do. So I'm going to start with the section A, which is compulsory paper, which is 40 marks. There are four questions, question number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each question, for example, question number 1 has 5 parts, A, B, C, D, and E, each being 2 marks. So we start with part 1, 40 marks. Attempt all questions from this section. So this is compulsory. So the first one is question number 1, A, then you have B, then you have C, D, and E. Each question here is 2 marks. So let's start. So question number 1, A, state the law of supply. So this was a 2 marks question. In this, you need to answer that other things remaining constant, means all the other factors need to remain constant, only the price changes. Do not forget to write other things remaining same. So you explain, as the price of commodity rises, the supply will also increase, and as the price falls, the supply falls. In this question, what happened was, some of them did not complete the statement, so you need to write the complete statement of the law of supply. You should notice that you should write other things being equal or ceteris paribus. Do not confuse between the law of demand and law of supply. Some of them write law of demand, though the question says law of supply. Whereas don't write only one side of the relationship between price and supply. Just don't write that when the price of a commodity rises, the supply increases. You need to further write that when the price falls, the supply also falls. So that was 2 marks. The next question was question number 1B. The question was, entrepreneurs are innovators. Briefly explain. 2 marks question again, compulsory. So an entrepreneur discovers and develops new ideas, new techniques, new products. He searches for new markets, source of supply of how to get the raw materials at low cost, opportunities that he's going to get, how is he going to produce, method of production, and combination of the raw materials. All these need to be written. What has happened here is, the first thing is, you can also write the definition of innovation. But do not make a mistake, do not write other functions of an entrepreneur. It's asking for entrepreneurs are innovator, you have to stick to it. You cannot write any other function of an entrepreneur. So question number 1C, the question was, what do you understand by hyperinflation? The answer is, hyperinflation occurs when monthly increase in price is 20% to 30% or more. At this stage, there is no limit to price rise. Price continues to rise. What has happened is, here some of them did not write the percentage right. Mention the percentage rise in price correctly. You should have the keywords like percent or per annum, monthly. No general answers you should give, like there's a very high rise in price. Will not work. You have to have keywords like percentage, per annum, and the exact percentage, approximately 20 to 30%. D, mining operations can destroy the ecosystem. So this is topic on mining. Give 2 reasons to support the statement. 2 marks. So the answer is basically both open cast mining and underground mining causes deforestation, thereby adversely affecting the forest ecosystem. The waste materials created out of the mining operations flow to the river water. They affect the aquatic ecosystem adversely, or any other relevant point. Most of them could answer this theory, so there is not a problem in this. The next question, E. Highlight the importance of selling cost in a monopolistic competitive market. So you can also write what are selling costs. You can start with that definition. There is a large number of sellers who sell differentiated products, but they are close substitute of each other. The sellers create a unique image in the mind of the consumer about their product. Why? To increase the market share of their product. Attractive advertisements, promotions, discounts, door-to-door campaign, all these make demand inelastic. Demand is inelastic means whatever is the price that is in the market, people are ready to buy. The demand will always be there. The next thing is question number 2. This is section A, compulsory section. Question number 2A talks about here is, land is heterogeneous in nature. Explain. This is 2 marks question. So here you see, relate the land's nature of being heterogeneous to its fertility, and also it varies in the mineral resources, location, irrigation, facilities, etc. Here, do not make a mistake of writing about alternative use of land. They are asking you, land is heterogeneous in nature. You should not talk about alternative use of land. The next question, which is 2 marks again, is question number 2B. How does the presence of bank in a country help in capital formation? For capital formation, you need savings, and this savings must be converted into investment. For example, individuals, household, they save their money in the banks, and the banks take that money, give you some interest for the deposits, and lend it as loans to the business people so that they can finance their capital. So what happens here is, banks and financial institutions make it possible to mobilize the savings of individual. Mobilize means collect the saving. Savings could be the home savings, fixed deposits, recurring deposits, current deposits, and give it out as loan to the producers to finance his capital expenditure. So when the business people get that loan, then they're going to invest in capital, so capital formation will take place. Here, write the role of bank in mobilization of savings and their role in lending to the investors. Investors means the business people who are going to spend money on purchasing capital. Then question number 2C, which of the following is considered as labor in economics? The first one, acting done by a film star. It is a labor because he is getting paid for it. The judgment given by a judge in the court, he is paid for it, labor. Washing of clothes by a washerman is being paid, so labor. Whereas preparation of tea by a housewife, she is not being paid for it. So what happens here is, it is not labor. Otherwise, there is not much of a problem here. Some of them answer just 1 or 2, and they had difficulty in answering this question. Next is D. Why is money referred to as legal tender money? Again, 2 marks question. You have to write about totally backed by the government. No one can refuse. No one can refuse to accept it. So it is ordered by the government. Nobody can refuse that amount or the currency. You must write it is backed by the government. And you can. This is the key note. You can underline that when you answer it. And also you should write no one can refuse to accept it. Remember here, if you write the definition of money, it is not accepted. Next, E. What is meant by product differentiation? Product differentiation. In which market form is it prevalent? 2 marks. So, product differentiation takes place in a monopolistically competitive market. So, monopolistically competitive market is subject to product differentiation. The goods are the same, but they have slight difference in the packaging, brand name, the fragrance, etc. Here note, mention the basis of differentiation, like there's a difference in your color, there's a difference in packing, the difference in your fragrance, etc. Mention the market in which it is prevalent. Do not confuse monopolistic with monopoly. Some of you confuse monopoly and monopolistic. So you should not get confused between that, because in monopolistic competition there is product differentiation, whereas in monopoly there is, what you have? Price discrimination. So don't confuse that. Then the next question was, state the formula for calculating price elastic demand using percentage method. So you just have to write the formula. EP means price elasticity of demand. So percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in the price. This is also fine. Or else you can write the formula delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. What problem that is faced here is, some of them confuse and write delta P upon delta Q. They reverse the numerator and the denominator. So be careful here. Don't start with delta P upon delta Q. It's delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. And here do not write ES. It has to be either ED or EP. Do not write supply instead of demand. Next, explain the impact of inflation on the fixed income group of people. Fixed income group, pensioners, salaried people, people who have put money in the bank, fixed deposits, which gives you a fixed income. What happens? Given the money income or the fixed income group, like salaried people, people who have put money, savings in their bank account, which gives you the fixed rate of interest, like fixed deposits, recurring deposits, savings account, or pensioners who get the same amount every month, and the rise of the pensioners do take place, but there is a delay. That is, the purchasing power of money income falls due to inflation, because inflation is taking place, whereas the purchasing power of money will fall because you are getting the same amount, whereas the value of money will decrease. Hence, inflation adversely affects this group of people. Adversely means it is not favorable. Write the word purchasing power or real income falls. Also mention whether it is adversely or favorably. These are the key words that you need to underline and write. The next question. Give 2 examples of a pair of commodities that are substitute of each other. So there are many substitutes. You can stick to tea and coffee, a scooty and a motorcycle, any other relevant example. Remember, some of you are confused with substitute goods and complement goods. So these are substitute goods, not complementary goods. Then question number 3D, which is still compulsory, 2 marks each. Explain how an improper price policy result in the poor performance of public sector enterprise. So public sector enterprise, public sector units, government run sectors, what happens is there might be improper price policy which will lead to very poor performance. Why does the government business houses have improper price policy? In most PSE, public sector enterprise, prices of different products and services are kept at a low level, means the price is low. Why? Keeping the objective of economic welfare in mind. So they have to look at the economic welfare, not profit oriented, so they have to reduce the price. But when the price is reduced, what happens? However, as a result of such low price, the quality of the public utility goods is usually poor quality. Price decreases, profit margin is less, quality might drop. So here it says connect low prices with welfare motive. Don't talk about here, not the quality was poor or the high price was charged, etc. Then differentiate between capital and capital formation. So the difference is capital is produced, means of production, whereas capital formation indicates the change in any economy during any particular period of time. Here notice capital is a stock concept, whereas capital formation is a flow concept. Stock concept means at that time, particular time, whereas capital formation is a period of time. Here, period of time, particular time. Mention the time factor in the definition of capital formation, that it is a flow, that it is a period of time in 1 year, in 1 month, etc. You just have to write one difference because it's 2 marks. You can write just one difference for 2 marks. Then you have question number 4A. How does direct tax reduce income inequality? How does direct tax reduce the inequality in the income? First part, so we have 2 marks, 1 marks here. The state can impose higher rate of income tax on the rich people and allow tax exemption for the poorer class. Second one, the state can spend the tax collected from the rich for rural development, which creates employment, generates employment for them and creates an income opportunity to the poorer section of the people. So money that is collected from the rich as income tax at a higher rate will be spent in the villages so that employment is created there and they have opportunities to start their own business, so that income opportunity takes place for the poorer people. So you should elaborate on how to reduce income inequality. The next question, B. What are public sector enterprise, PSUs? Give 2 examples of public sector enterprise in India. So basically public sector enterprise, the sector is owned, controlled and managed by the government, both at the union, central level or the state level in India. It is called public sector enterprises or public sector units. Example is Indian Railways and Indian Post and Telegraphs. Here, most of the students didn't have any problem. Then the next one is distinguish between sunk capital and floating capital. Sunk capital can be used to produce only one type of commodity or service, whereas floating capital can be used to put to alternative use. Many of you do not prepare this because if you look at the Frank textbook, you will see only working capital, fixed capital. You will not have other different types of capital. So refer to other books. Just Frank textbook is not enough here. You need to read other textbooks where you have different types of capital. Many miss out these differences. They leave this out. Like fixed capital, real capital, working capital, etc. are there. Different types of capital. You will have to refer to other books too. Next, briefly explain the following credit control method adopted by the central bank in view of the publicity and moral persuasion. So publicity and moral persuasion is basically not a quantitative, but it is qualitative method. The first one, publicity. The central bank publishes weekly reports, periodical reviews, the statement of assets, liabilities, and balance sheets for the guidance and reference of commercial banks. 2. Moral suasion. Under certain circumstances, the central bank requests and persuades the commercial banks not to grant credit, not to give loans for speculative and non-essential activities. So these two are the qualitative methods adopted by the central bank. Next, name two instruments of fiscal policy, 2 marks. So 2 instruments of fiscal policy, you can write any two. You can write taxation or public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, deficit finance, just any 2. You don't have to explain in detail. Now we go to the choice section. Choice section B. So this is out of 60 marks. So 15 marks each, 15 into 4. So you need to do 4 questions out of the remaining question number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So out of 6 questions, you just have to do 4. Now this section, which is a choice, you need to do 4 questions out of 6 questions. You can leave out 2. If you were to write one more extra, if you do 5 questions, then what happens is all the marking will be done for all the 5 and the lowest marks will not be added. The best 4 will be taken if you do 5 questions. So question number 5 has 2 parts. Question number 6 also has 2 parts. Like for example, question number 5 has A and B. Question number 6 also has A and B. A is 7 marks and B is 8 marks. The first one, prepare an individual supply schedule. Prepare an individual supply schedule, which means you should have 2 columns here. The first one would be actually for first row will be price and the second will be quantity supplied. You can have supply schedule containing at least 4 sets of price and quantity supplied. For example, price is 10, 20, 30, 40, 4 sets, and quantity supplied, since the price is increasing, quantity supplied also has to increase. So you write 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, 4 kg. You'll have to go for at least 4 sets of price and quantity supplied, not 3. And you must show that it is positive relationship. Positive means when the price is increasing, the quantity supplied will also increase. Important, the graph must be properly labeled. Write y-axis, x-axis, origin O. Always on the y-axis, you'll write price, like income, price, here it is price. And on the x-axis, you'll write quantity supplied. Always label it. And you must show your supply curve must be upward sloping. Upward sloping means positive slope. Positive slope means when the price increases, then quantity supplied will also increase. Remember, when you draw the supply curve, you must name it as SS. Supply curve has to be SS. Okay? So I'll give you a case of how it is done. Okay? Here, you will see, I'll show it here. Let's say price in rupees, and you have quantity supplied in kgs per week, let's say per week. Okay, so you have just 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees and 40 rupees. And you have say 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, 4 kg. This is the supply, individual supply schedule. And looking at this, as the question says, you'll have to draw your graph. You have to follow this. You have to have your price here and the quantity supplied here. Make sure you write your y-axis and your x-axis. 10, 20, 30, 40. Follow this schedule. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10, 20, 30 and 40, and you plot your graph and it will be positive slope. Do not forget to write SS. Okay, so that is it. So we'll continue. I'll continue explaining. Okay, so the next thing is, it says here that assumption Now, when you look at assumption, assumption means the price is changing, but all the other factors remaining constant. That is assumptions. So don't write that price is constant. You have to write the other factors changing, like technology of production must not change, price of factors of production must not change, goal of the firm must not change, price of related goods must not change. Make sure you don't talk about price here, because price will change. So price is not constant, it will change. Other factors will remain constant. So whatever represent the same schedule diagram, and whatever you've done, whatever table you've made, you have to follow that and draw the diagram. Next, B. Explain 4 reasons as to why land is considered to be an important factor of production. 8 marks, so 4 is 2 marks each, 2 4s are 8. So for every reason you get 2 marks. So the answer would be, it determines total production level, determines agricultural output, it determines industrial production. This is just a gist, you need to expand it. Fulfills the basic needs of the people, influences economic growth, development. You have to write on these, but do not write the characteristics of land. The next question is 6A, 7 marks. Does a demand curve always have a negative slope? Give 3 reasons to justify your answer. Here, of course, demand curve is not always negative slope. It can have some exceptions. So, no, there can be exceptions to the demand curve. So, demand curve can be also positive slope. Positive slope means when the price increases, the quantity demanded will also increase. Examples would be conspicuous consumption. Conspicuous consumption would also actually be the same thing as snob appeal. Similar actually. Expectation of future prices. Price is rising. Price is already rising, and consumers expect the price to rise further. So if the consumer expect the future price to rise more, they will demand more, so that they will not get the pinch of buying that good at a higher price. So when the price increases, the demand also increases. Veblen effect. Veblen effect is about the price and the quality. You will think that if the price is more, then the quality must be better and you will buy more. For example, premium petrol and the ordinary petrol. You will feel that it's 1 rupee, 2 rupee more premium petrol and the quality is better, the demand for that may also increase. The last one was Giffen goods. Giffen good, what happens? Giffen's good are inferior goods, where the poorest sections spend large part of the income on it, and when the price falls, the demand will also fall, because when the price falls, the real income or the purchasing power increases, the poorer section will shift to superior quality goods. Do not write reasons for negative slope of the demand curve. Be careful, this is not reasons for negative slope of the demand curve. Next, point of the difference between perfect competition and monopoly on the basis of number of sellers. Number of sellers, perfect competition, many sellers. Monopoly, single seller. Market price, perfect competition, price taker. Monopoly is a price maker. Entry of firms, perfectly competitive market, free entry and exit. Monopoly, entry is restricted. Fourth part, type of products produced. The type of products produced, homogeneous, and they are perfect substitutes. Here it is homogeneous, but they have no close substitutes. For example, electricity and inverter. Do not confuse between monopoly, again monopoly, and monopolistic competitive market. There is a confusion otherwise. Then we have question number 7A. Why is labor an important factor of production? Why is labor an important factor of production? Explain the following characteristics of labor. So these are the lists. Okay. So labor is important, as without labor, land and capital are unproductive. That's why it is an important factor of production. This is active factor of production also. Land and capital will become passive, because without labor, land and capital will not function. The next part, labor cannot be separated from laborer. Laborer has to be physically present at the place of work. Therefore, labor cannot be separated from laborer. Labor can improve its efficiency. Answer, laborers can improve his efficiency by education, training, use of better tools, etc. Third one, labor is perishable. Answer, labor is perishable because if he does not work on a particular day, that day's labor will be wasted. So this is how you answer. You should do not overlook, why is labor an important factor of production? This is also part of the question. Some of you directly do these only and leave out the first part of the question. So do not overlook the first part of the question, why is labor an important factor of production? You have to explain clearly that a laborer must be physically present in order to give his services. Next, discuss 4 ways in which an entrepreneur contributes to economic development. So 4 ways, 8 marks. Each way that you write, 4 ways, so each of them is 2 marks each. You write about new innovation and industrialization, influencing dynamism in production system, new way of production, recycling of profit for productive investments, generating competitive strength in an industry and higher export income, and efficient use of the available resource. You have to write any 4. Here, do not write functions of an entrepreneur. You will not get marks for that. Question number 8. A, 7 marks. Define money. Explain the secondary function of money. So definition of money, most of you could do it. Anything that is generally accepted as a means of exchange and as a measure and store of value. In functions, you can do standard of deferred payment, write this and explain clearly. The heading is not enough. Transfer of value, store of value. Some of you tend to mix up secondary function. One secondary function comes in, then you might put primary function or contingent function. Don't mix up the secondary function with the primary and the contingent function. B, explain the methods adopted by commercial bank to mobilize funds from the public. 8 marks. So here you will see mobilize funds from the public, from the consumers, from the household, how the money, funds are collected by commercial bank. There are different ways commercial bank can collect funds. Deposits, that is about deposit. Deposits like in current account, which generally business people use. You don't get any interest on that. Savings bank account, you get very low interest, but still you can get some interest, say 3%, 4%. General household do it if they have spare money. Fixed deposit is like time deposit. For a certain period of time you keep that. It could be 5.5%, 6%, 6.5%, etc. And recurring deposit. Recurring deposit is every month you deposit like an installment for a certain period of time that you can decide. Here, mobilizing funds from the public is the different ways to deposit, not giving loans. Some of you write about loans. Mobilize fund means not loans, it is about deposit. And also, when you explain each of these different accounts, you have to mention the rate of interest. Approximate rate of interest. Just the way I told you, current account or demand account, there is no rate of interest. Savings account, 3%, 4%. Fixed deposit, 5.25, 6%, 6.5%. And recurring deposit could be around about 5%, 4.5%. Then we have question number 9A. What is meant by urbanization? Explain 3 negative impacts of urbanization on the ecosystem. Urbanization refers to general increase in urban population because of the movement of people from less industrialized region to more industrialized, from less industrialized region to more industrialized region. Impact, growth of unhygiene slums, proper drainage facility is not there, deterioration of the natural habitat. Any other relevant point that you have to explain it briefly. You can write about creation of slums, the pressure on the groundwater also, spoilage of the landscape due to accumulation of waste, etc. B, two merits and two demerits of direct tax. Merits of direct tax ensures equity, certainty, elastic for social consciousness, reduce inequalities. There are lots of things. You just have to explain 2 points. But you have to explain. Heading itself is not enough. Demerits, unpopular, consciousness is not fostered for everybody, adverse effect on will to work and save, chances of tax evasion, inconvenient, and arbitrariness. Any 2 points you have to explain. And remember, the heading that you have given and the explanation that you write has to match. Then question number 10. Every year, question number 10 is an extract. So this is an extract from Economic Times of a certain day, Economic Times, New Delhi. So a paragraph will be given to you. Okay? It talks about how Tata Group was keen in buying Air India, which was debt-laden, and many other airlines were no longer interested. They actually were preferring only its accessories or something related to the airlines, but not the airlines itself. The Tata Group remains in the race for Air India, the debt-laden national carrier on which Indigo, Jet Airways, Emirates are no longer keen. Other airlines still interested in participating in privatization of Air India includes Lufthansa and Singapore Airlines. Reuters on Wednesday report that the Tata Group is not interested in bidding for Air India. So you can read that. Actually, it looks a bit difficult, but it has nothing to do much in the questions that are given to you. You can read this. Okay, and the question that comes. Explain any 2 ways in which the government can undertake privatization of public sector units. 2 ways in which government can undertake privatization of public sector units. So the answer isn't here. It just gives you your paragraph to explain to you what's happening here. But the answer is not here. It is from your textbook. So you write about the economic ways. What will the government do? Refers to the transfer of ownership of public sector enterprise either fully or partially to private sector. Okay? So you can see how a part of the railways there was partial sell-off or transfer of ownership some time back. This is also known as disinvestment policy of the government. Organizational ways shows the process of limiting state control over any public sector units by reorganization like selling a part of the equity of public sector enterprise to public sector enterprise, entry of private sector industries into the industries which were earlier meant only for the public sector, or it could be non-expansion of the existing public sector. Question number 10A, second part. State 3 reasons for the need for privatization. 3 marks. So the answers are here. You can choose any 3. Creation of a competitive environment, improved supply at lower cost, reduction in unproductive expenditure of the government, and a reduction in deficit in government budget, greater flexibility in making production and investment decisions, greater investment, employment and income opportunities, improvement in managerial efficiencies, increase in accountabilities. Out of this list, you can choose any 3 reasons. The second part, which is 8 marks question, and the last question here, discuss 4 ways in which the state plays an important role in economic development. 8 marks, so 4 ways, 2 marks each. If there's a list here, you can write any of these, but this is a heading, you'll have to explain clearly. Development of economic infrastructure, full employment level, rapid industrialization, removal of inequalities of income and wealth. You can write about capital formation. You can also write rapid agricultural development, the social security system or the measures taken by the government, controlling the monopoly, and a sound banking system. So there are many points. Out of these, you can pick up any 4 and explain that clearly. So this is a typical way of how 2019 question should have been answered. If you have answered 1 extra question, then When they evaluate, then the lowest out of that, the less marks that you score out of that will not be included, and the best 4 will be taken. Make sure you have key points and answers should be to the point, underline, neat handwriting, etc. Right. So this is how you can appear for your 2020 ICSE paper. Make it very neat and have a lot of key points to underline. And this is how I showed you how a 2019 question paper is being answered. Right, thank you so much. All the best. Do well in your exams. Thank you.